Hello and welcome back. It's Carol from Parents in Mind. Today we have a special podcast for you. We have the Parent Support Squad from National Childbirth Trust, Newham, NCT. They will all be introducing themselves in just a moment, and I'm excited to have the whole crew here. So let me just tell you what services are going to be joining us today. We have Imran from Parents in Mind on the fathers and partner side. We have Belinda from Newham Nurture, and we also have Cherrelle from Infant Feeding. We're all going to be sharing some insights and some information about services, some general challenges that might come up as well. So introducing Cherrelle. Hi. And Belinda.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me.
And hi everybody, it's Imran. As a new parent, we go through a lot of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster. We have highs, we have lows. And it's amazing that in Newham we have so many different projects under the NCT banner. And just one of them, the amazing Cherrelle, who's going to be talking about infant feeding. Hi, Cherrelle.
Hi, Imran. Thanks for having me here today. Yeah, infant feeding is a big topic here in Newham because new parents face a lot of challenges, one of those being feeding their baby. So we have groups where parents can come and just ask questions and troubleshoot and just be in a space with other parents who've been there and done that and can help them through that journey of infant feeding.
And when we see moms at Parents in Mind, just that swapping stories is really encouraging from just learning off each other. So I can see how what you said is really
completely.
important.
They go both hand in hand.
So within your service, what does support look like?
It can look like anything, really. We try and keep it inclusive, so it's culturally and religiously relevant, non-judgmental. It could be drop-in classes, it could be talks, it could be walks and talks. We try and make it accessible for everyone in a way that makes sense for them.
And how do you know if someone needs the support?
That's a really good question.
Because within our service, some of the mums, when they come in, at the referral call, we talk about some of the things they're going through, and not everybody always knows what they need. They don't always know that they need that infant feeding support, or they might need signposting somewhere else. So just wondering what you...
I think that's where the peer support side of things comes in really handy, because just having those on the level conversations with each other, we begin to relate, and people then realise that actually they were struggling when they didn't think they were. Then they're also in the right place to find the support they need to stop struggling and find new ways to get through. Because we know parenting is really hard, and someone who's been there, done that. It's easy to take in information and you don't feel judged.
Peer supporters are the magic, really, for all our services. They do a lot with their lived experience, sharing, encouraging, and just being the forefront of our service.
100% agree.
I think it's key, what Carol just said, lived experience. So people feel that this person understands me, they understand what I went through. And that really comes through, and you see the other people come through on the other side of the other side, and we have a lot of these type of success stories. So that's amazing. Our peer supporters are amazing. Talking of lived experiences, I think nothing encapsulates it more than, I would say, Newham Nurture. Could you tell me a little bit more about that, Belinda?
Yes, thanks, Imran. Yeah, that you're absolutely right, actually, because Newham Nurture was created and designed by families themselves, women specifically with relevant experience of who we support. So we support asylum and refugee families, so those that are new to the UK and maybe not as confident in navigating the maternity system locally. So it was really understanding what their challenges and barriers were to accessing maternity care, and really co-designing what does the service look like to be able to be accessible and inclusive to all those families. So we really spent a lot of time at the beginning listening and learning, and then they were able to design and understand, well, if this is one of our barriers, how can we mitigate that? And, so we've got quite a few practices within our service that can help them to access the service better. So we support, like I mentioned, asylum and refugee families. We provide pregnancy support and also baby and me sessions and lots of different parenting workshops. We also have counselling, and we have peer support, which provides that one-to-one support to be able to accompany and advocate for families. We have many languages within our service, actually. At the moment, we have over 40 different languages. So you can imagine that the barriers that causes for women to access the care and also to understand what support's available for them and the eligibility. And it's quite challenging being here in the UK. And then, sometimes our mental health is affected by that, especially when we're isolated. We don't have family support around us. So we enable families also to meet each other from different communities. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and this idea of building a village, which people hear a lot when they become parents, as you mentioned, Belinda, can be very isolating. Even if you're first-time parent, or you have other children, there's many factors that can affect that isolation, that can affect the way you can link up with other people. We have some mums who come into our service where they're the only ones who are mums within their friendship group, whether because they're a young parent or because they've had to move from borough. As you mentioned, that can be quite difficult.
Yeah, I mean, even with that, with some of the mums we see come through infant feeding, sometimes they're the first mum in their family in their generation to breastfeed or, mix feed, for example, and they just don't know where to start and they need someone they can trust and speak to, maybe without forcing them to make a decision. They just want to hear the information and be empowered to decide for themselves what they do next.
I think having a support network provides emotional and practical and mental health support. And I think it's important to have a healthy support network. What would you say a healthy one would look like?
That's a really good question because we have a range of different relationship situations that come up within the service. For example, we know there are some who are living with their in-laws, which is not always helps with the village idea because it can be either a hindrance and others it can be a helpful situation. And then we have ones where maybe relationship breaks down, all these other difficulties within that requires other greater support from other services. So within our service, when we meet up in our face-to-face or whether it's a WhatsApp, we do have these opportunities to talk about particular topics like boundaries, like saying no, as you say, things, what does a healthy relationship look like? But this is all led by what mums want to talk about, also the peer support to support that. Because having that village and other people you can relate to that can relate to your struggles is really key in navigating that whole up and down of parenthood, so you just don't feel like you're alone.
Would you say it's important to connect with your friends, families, and discuss or communicate effectively your needs? Also, our support groups, it's like a little family, isn't it? Like, we're like siblings. We can talk to each other like family. Talk about our experiences, our ups and our downs, and I think that helps as well. You've got community resources, children's centre, family hubs. Um, and just be honest, ask for help. It's not gonna hurt you to ask, and the things that you can get out of just asking.
100%. I mean, it's very informal, it's very friendly, it's all information led. So, if you wanted to try breastfeeding, if you wanted to try mixed feeding and just didn't know the facts, you can get those facts from these centres, from these groups with peer supporters and other professionals. But the information is there and it's all in front of you. Everything you need will be there to find out, and you can be signposted to find out more information. So they're great places to come and just be part of our village, as you say.
Yes, I've some of our mothers, especially with the language barrier, they've not felt empowered and to use their voice, especially if they don't have family here, they don't have that empowerment, and they don't have their parents around to support them and to encourage them. So we now have breastfeeding peer supporters and infant feeding peer supporters within our service themselves, which has been really good actually. And there's quite a few multilingual resources out there, especially through UNICEF, also videos. So we're really able to support families in more of a personalised way, which I think is really important, and that's what we do well.
And I just want to add something that the project coordinator, Christina, says about this village and the importance of that. She says that it's almost indescribable when a service user opens up their struggles at a group and someone else in the room says, me too. And it's beautiful. And that's a step towards creating your village and finding your people. You've just heard someone just say, me too. And that is what's so wonderful about these peer supporters who are mums themselves, lived experience. They've been trained by NCT to help understand their own experience and how to support other mums with their own challenges. And they create that safe space.
They really do, but they come from all walks of life, so that relatability is there, because although we don't, as peer supporters, share our personal stories, but we can definitely relate to yours. And that being heard and that feeling seen is the biggest part of peer support, I think, because you just can't beat it.
Just want to, also, when you said the best part of peer supporters is they also bridging that gap from we've got as you mentioned, an informal service to where some people might have come from a clinical service. It just bridges that gap where you can speak to someone who is approachable.
I think peer supporters for me is someone that kind of looks like me, understands my culture, my religion, where I come from, my community, my upbringing, my struggles, and can relate and not say something. Even sometimes I don't say something, they still understand because they've been there, they've gone through it. And I think that's, for me, that's the beauty. I don't have to explain.
It's the knowing looks, isn't
it?
Yeah,
it's like, bro, I understand. And just by that, I feel like the hairs on my arms is standing up, because I don't have to explain myself. But if I'm going to other services, it's like, well, you haven't been through what I've been through. You haven't seen my struggles. How are you going to tell me how to solve my problems if you haven't had an inch, or you haven't walked a foot in my shoes? And I think people understand that, they relate to it, and then whatever struggles I'm going through, a peer supporter can normalize and say, you know what, bro, it's okay, it happens, and then we can work on how to get through it. And if it's not something that they can do, they always know someone that can, signpost you onto. And I think that is the magic for me.
That's amazing, Imran. I think I absolutely see that all the time, especially within our service. We have women going through terrible circumstances and really struggling, homelessness, really poor accommodation, trauma, and domestic violence. There's lots of different, they've been trafficked. So they're experiencing, and they're coming with a lot of loaded experiences, and I like to think of peer support as coming alongside, not going before, not going after, really walking and hand holding women. And when like you've mentioned about culture, you may not have a peer supporter of the same culture, but they understand the importance of culture. They understand the importance of community, and they walk with you and empower you and help you use your voice when needed. And I think that's really magic. Especially when you don't have your own family, or there's lots of different family dynamics going on in the world. But social isolation, I think, is a real pandemic at the moment, and the power of peer support, I like to see it as scaffolding, real scaffolding for somebody, and, to help them when those times are tough, and to enable them, to help them find out what they're entitled to, lead them into support services, and guide them when they need it.
And that is the thing, isn't it, Belinda? You do see when you have people come to the groups, although it's not intentional to make friends, they often do end up making those friendships, and they can leave back into the world knowing that there's someone else out there who gets them. And, and that is just really the magic of it, isn't it? Because it's not the intent of the groups, but it happens organically. And that is the best situation, that organic sort of shared understanding and friendship that comes from peer support and just having these sorts of services available to you.
I think it comes, they say, you can't choose your family. I think peer supporters, it's a family that you can choose, and you can be open and honest with. And that's priceless.
Priceless.
That's a very clear picture of what you mentioned about peer supporters coming alongside you, because they do face a lot of challenges in supporting, holding the space for women, as you mentioned, so many different challenges. The training does help prepare them for it, but the role of that peer supporter is not to solve every problem. It's really, as you mentioned, Belinda, is you're connecting them to other services, you're encouraging them, you're making them feel positive and feeling like they can actually take that step. And that empowerment is really key.
I think you just, again, you keep hitting the nail on the head, you guys. So I think, but we are like Carol said, we're more of a listening service, and I think as men, we don't really get heard. So when we're in an environment where people are listening, it's amazing to hear what comes out of it, because we have provided safe spaces. It's not just with the fathers group, with the mothers, Newham Nurture, the infant feeding group. They're all environments where people feel safe, they feel heard, and that's the most important thing, and why our projects are so important, especially in Newham, where there's a need for these type of projects.
We're really lucky to have all these services under NCT to support parents across Newham, and even grateful to be able to do this recording from Shipman Family Hubs today.
I think the whole point of the work that we do is to work in collaboratively and work together. And we've got to thank a lot of people, because we couldn't be doing it alone. Not even just the working with Newham Nurture or the infant feeding line. It's also about working with family hubs. We've got the ICB and NHS. We've got the council, and we're an integral part of the family hubs, the steering groups, and we're quite heavily involved in the community. And this is what shapes our services, and the reason why it has that amazing effect on parents.
We want to make sure every parent feels connected, feels confident and secure in their parenting. So we will continue to work collaboratively with all the services in Newham. I've really enjoyed speaking to you all. Thank you for coming on today's podcast to share about your services.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Imran.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me.
Thank you everyone for coming, and that's a wrap from us. See you next time.